Okay, on this video, we're going over a mini block on hip strengthening, mostly focused on two areas, the hip flexor and the outer hip. Both are weak, usually due to a lack of training. Obviously, the hip flexor gets tight from all the sitting we do, and it limits our ability to extend at the hip. The outside hip muscles, the glute medius, the minimus, those are really important to help stabilize the hip, especially in single leg positioning, running, walking. If not, we get this dropping out of the hip. So having good strength on the outside helps us to develop strength in lateral mobility, and also really important for just stability of the hip joint, preservation of good joint alignment. So if you have any arthritic conditions in the hip, strengthening the outside of the hip is really important. So we're going to go over about 6 or 8 exercises here to do. Most of them we're going to focus in on doing, starting with sets either from 3 to 5. It's a really hard exercise. Moving up to sets of 6, 8 to 10 reps. Now you can get into some of these doing higher repetitions, 15 or 20, but starting out with 6, 8, or 10 is going to be a really good way to go with this. For people that are having active hip issues, or you have a chronic hip issue like degenerative arthritis, in the hip, these are good things to be able to do daily. Now, what I would pick is 2 or 3 of these, do a few sets each day. Consistency is much more important than how much we do on any given day. So same with core principles. We want to try to shoot for 2 exercises a day, at least 5 to 6 days a week. And same with these. These are great for warm-ups on any given workout. Doesn't matter if you're running or getting in and do some strength training. Just getting in and being able to consistently hit these 4 or 5 days a week over week is going to help with your overall hip strength. So protect those hips, and here we go.
Okay, we're starting off here with mini band hip flexor. The key here is to get the hip flexed past 90. You'll see I'm going a few inches past 90 here. I want you to start with reps of 3 to 5, and you can work your way all the way up to sets of 10. Next one, we're moving into a little more resistance here. You can see I've got a 25-pound band anchored low onto the squat rig, and I'm using the bench here. And again, we're just doing banded hip flexor. I'm pulling down against the top of the bench here just to brace my core. And again, we're looking for sets of 10 to 15 reps. This is a basic bridge done with a mini band around the knees, pushing out to stretch the band and driving up into full extension. Typically done for sets of 10 to 15. Moving on to a single leg extension. Key here is to keep the pelvis level and alternate legs each time. Moving into a side plank with clamshell. Again, the band is around the knees. With these, start with sets of 3 to 5 and work your way up to sets of 10 on each side, driving the hips forward and up, fully locked in. Keeping the shoulder stacked and pushing up. This is from Crossover Symmetry. It's one of their hip core bands, a little bit more resistance. Again, same exercise. Side plank here with clamshell. Okay, this is just a basic air squat with some resistance around the knees, driving out. This helps to strengthen the outside hip muscles. Typically with these, we're going to do sets of 10 to 20. These are great for warm-ups. Moving on to monster walks. You could have a band around the ankles as well, but here just at the knees. This is just a cowboy walk. The key with these is to try to keep the knees outside, keeping constant tension on the band. This is just a simple hip opener. We're working on external rotation of the hip here. You can see I'm going to struggle with balance a little bit. I'm trying to use just one arm. I want to try to maintain good hip extension and a neutral pelvis as I come down and just rotate out. You can see here I'm showing a little bit of difficulty with balance. You can use both arms down if you need to. And the key is to try to just slowly control that rotation, coming back to neutral pelvis. This is just a hip hydrant, small circles going forward and backward. Now we move in just to a lateral abduction of the hip. Again, I'm trying to keep my pelvis level. You'll see on this side here, I'm a little off balance. Moving into just a frog stretch here. This is great to open up the hips and lower back. You can hold this position for a few minutes, all the way up to 10 minutes. These are just simple hip rotations at 90. Great for just opening up mobility of the hips. Trying to do it hands-free works on a little bit more mobility and balance. Here we're just adding a little bit of lumbar rotation, good stretch on the QL for the lower back. And now just moving into a full hip opener. These are great for sports like jiu-jitsu, wrestling. You'll see I'm slowly controlling the descent back down for a good eccentric strengthening of the hip. Okay, this is just a simple sit through using a resistance band. Great for sport of jiu-jitsu. Good core exercise. And the Cossack squat. Using a kettlebell helps me to get down deeper. I'm just trying to stay as low as I can between transition and just moving out into basically a lateral lunge. Typically do about 6 to 10 reps per side. And finally, just a simple kettlebell good morning.